The reptilians had to take residence in caverns beneath the surface of the Earth or in deep swamp areas in the planet Earth. They set out to conquer the Rumadians and take rule over them because of their passive nature. Some of the Rumadians came down to the planet Earth from Zeta Reticuli. They went directly to the original pygmy tribe of Bushmen in South Africa, who were the Kishites, Kushites, and the Hawelahites. They lived amongst these beings, and the Rumadians taught this tribe of the Anunnaki and of the beings from the star Sirius. The Kushites and the Hawelahites became a mixture of these supernatural beings, or extraterrestrial beings. These supernatural beings are the Rumadians, Greys, that existed in the Nile River of the barren and rocky land of Nuba. They were associated with peace and harmony only. The Pygmies called these supernatural beings Bahur Malukat, or river angels. They lived in underwater castles. They were associated with 4 categories of human preoccupations: fertility, cultivation, marriage, and health. Then, on the arrival of the reptilians, who, in pursuit of the Rumadians, also crashed down amongst the Dogon tribes, and began to teach them by shadow hours and would retreat to the sea by day. They told them they were the Numus who had come to guide them if they would tell them the location of the secret caves that the agreeable Rumadians dwelled in. These Bushmen, the Kishites, Kushites, were of the family of Nakaibau, including the Dogon tribe. Today, they live in the deserts of the Kalahari, in what is called Africa today. The Numos reptilians were called Dogri, or Dogir by the Nubians. They were also referred to as the ugly water beings. The reptilians can be seen in daylight. However, they would roam mostly in the deep, dark swamps and the marshlands. They took on different forms to appeal to the humans. They had a very violent nature, which horrified most of these people. They always came out at the shadow hour and hung around date trees. The Dogri enjoyed eating the dates of the trees. They also came onto land during the shadow hours to teach and mix with the Dogons. They would kidnap the virgins and rape them to implant their seed. It became a ritual to offer virgins in order to prevent the bloodshed. A negotiator was elected called a Hogon. Every 60 years, they would seek these virgins. This, in turn, led to female child sacrificial rituals. To these serpent people, becoming willing blood sacrifices to what became known as Ha-Satan, the head of the reptilian tribes, also called Shaitan, became a common practice and like an honor, and a way to appease these malevolent beings. The Dogons of Mali in West Africa speak and teach what they have been taught by these 2 tribes of extraterrestrials to this very day. The reptilians told the people of Nubia that they were lawgivers, and the people called Nomus, which is summon, Na Samum, poison, in Syriac Arabic, as found in the Garun, Quran. They taught them about calculations and about the Sigi, a 60-year period. They also lived in underwater cities linked to caverns deep in the earth. You have 8 caverns occupied by extraterrestrials. This does not include Agartha. The ruling species of the underworld are many. Duanis, called gnomes, which stand 3 feet tall and have porcupine-like quills protruding from their bodies. They live near lava and other volcanic environments. They live off insects and worms. They are extremely intelligent, taking pride in mastering all of the science and literature of the surface people. I once met a Duani who could recite all of William Shakespeare. He knew the best of wines from the 17th century up. He could discuss everything from the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Torah on to Sigmund Freud, and the architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright. They are extremely friendly and are of no threat to human beings. Yet, They have no interest in coexisting with human beings on the surface, who they see as killers without purpose. Next, there's the Samin, Dero, called Ganesha by the Hindus, who are born by hatching from eggs that are 4 to 6 feet in diameter. They grow to 7 feet and are extremely obese, having 2 stomachs, and they cheweth the cud. The Saamian, Dero has no apparent fingernails or toenails, nipples or navel or rectum. They regurgitate their food. The eyes are light blue. They have blonde eyebrows and pinkish-grey coloured skin, much like the corpse of a Caucasian. Their home was in caverns beneath Turkey, having not been exposed to the inner or outer sun. They have no teeth, but their mouth appears to be full of a gummy, slimy substance. They are nocturnal and hear extremely well. They're not very peaceful and have a great dislike for humans. They are very human in appearance, yet far from it. They have a long, trunk-like nose, much like an elephant. They contend that the planet Earth is theirs originally, and it will be theirs again one day. The Samin Dero are constantly in conflict with the Duwani, who hold the same faith that they were both the original owners of the planet Earth. While on the surface, on the other side of the Red Sea, eastward of Eden in Chaldea, the demon beings Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma were coming back and forth to Earth from their star constellation Procyon, the planet Nirvana, for thousands of Earth years. They are savage animals and are also called Chaldea, meaning demons. They became known as the original Asiatics. While all of this was going on, there were different kinds of evolutionary humans, human and behemoth, that were living on this planet Earth in that same era also. You had the genus Homo, the Australopithecus. The Australopithecus was a creature who lived many millions of years ago. They differed chiefly in sire. There were 2 types of Australopithecus. The first form was those who stood 4 feet and could walk erect. The second form was the Java man, who was called Pithecanthropus, meaning monkey man or ape man. The other species was Paranthropus. Then you had other types like the Neanderthal, who lived for 100,000 years and then disappeared. Then there is the Cro-Magnon, who was said to have roamed Europe 400,000 years ago, including Homo erectus and many other species in between. The Peking man also belonged to this species, who was here 500,000 years ago, long thought to be along the migration of modern man. The Peking man was a type of prehistoric man who lived about 370 and 5,000 years ago in what is now northern China. Members of the species Homo erectus erect man stood about 5 feet tall, or 150 centimeters tall. They had a brain about twice the size of an Australopithecines. Most of these species of evolutionary man came from the ape family. Among the different species of ape man, you have the black-haired Lar. This is where you get the word lord or master from. The Lares, plural for Lar, were recognized for their intelligence. These Lares were the head monkeys or spiritual monkeys well known. This is where the word monks comes from. When the Anunnaki chose to breed by gene splicing through Geshu, one of the Anunnaki and Ninti, to breed the first mummy here, they chose to breed with the Lares because of their high intelligence. The red-haired orangutan was also a very intelligent ape, and the brown and black-haired chimpanzees had the best brains on the scale of evolution. The orangutan is a large, rare ape. Some males have an arm spread of 7 1/2 feet, one of the largest of all the apes. The orangutan's arms reach to its ankles when it stands. The orangutan lives in trees and rarely comes down to the ground. It moves through the forest by climbing from branch to branch. The orangutan feeds off of fruit and leaves. The other type was the chimpanzee. The chimpanzee has the intellect of a 4-year-old child and can be brought up to the level of a 7 or 8-year-old. The chimpanzee is one of the most intelligent animals and resembles human beings more than any other animal. They usually walk on all fours and stand erect when excited or trying to see over tall grass. The orangutans were used by certain beings to breed with. They used the species known as the baboon, the dog-like monkey and orang-utans together. The baboon is a large monkey. It has a large head, long, sharp teeth, and a muzzle much like that of a dog. A baboon's arms are about as long as its legs. Some baboons have short, stumpy tails, but others have tails more than 2 feet long. The baboons are part hyena, jackal, and monkey. The breeding with them resulted in your behemoth type of carnivorous man called mankind, one of the many species of Caucasians. You have the red-haired, light green-eyed, yellow-haired, blue-eyed, brown-haired, grey-eyed, and many others. While on the other hand, certain beings use the chimpanzee and the gibbon, which are an offshoot of the laris for breeding. There are several species of gibbons. They all have long arms and no tail. Gibbons travel through the tops of trees in small groups. A group usually consists of a male, a female, and 1 or 2 youngs. The chimpanzee and gibbon evolved into humans, and they became your nubans, the original pygmy tribe. Their woolly hair comes from the supreme beings with 24 strains of genes coated in melanin. These are the original Anunnaki Aluhum, the guardians of the Nubians with 9 ether, who in skin colour were olive, as green as the greenest of olives. Gibbon is the smallest of the apes. It also ranges over a wider area than the other members of the ape family: the chimpanzee, gorilla, and orangutan. The dog race was called behemoth. They are the beast. They were part orangutan and part baboon, called the beast of the field. They were the fierce ones. Only some of these apes were used for breeding. And on the other hand, some of these beings weren't touched at all. They just kept on evolving. They all have 6 ether, as well as all the other animals on this planet Earth. While all of this was going on, the larger meat-eating dinosaurs were eating and destroying everything. The early humans were dying out, and proto-mammals were at the brink of extinction. So, the elders thought that it was a great idea to destroy the planet and replenish it again. Then a great extinction hit, 250,000 years ago. The second big meteorite shower hit the planet Earth 250,000 years ago. Most of the prehistoric man and dinosaurs were destroyed. The surviving tribes were the Pygmies, the Watusis, and the Hindus. The Pygmy, who had mixed with the agreeable Rumadians, and the Watusi, who had mixed with the disagreeable Reptilians, were led into shelters beneath the earth. Some went behind waterfalls and in caves and caverns of the planet Earth to survive, while the Hindu tribe went back to their planet called Nirvana in the Canis Minor star constellation, Procyon. The story of humans we now know, that tells of a group of mammals called primates, takes us back some 45 or 50 million years, when a common ancestor of monkeys, apes and humans appeared in Africa. 25,000 or 30,000 million years later. That is how slowly the wheels of evolution turn. A precursor of the great apes branched off the primate line. In the 1920s AD, fossils of this early ape, proconsul, were found by chance on an island in Lake Victoria. Besides proconsul fossils, they also discovered in the area remains of Ramapithecus, the first erect ape or man-like primate. It was some 14 million years old, some 8 or 10 million years up the evolutionary tree from proconsul. The richest fossil finds have been in Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, near Lake Rudolph, renamed Lake Turkana, in Kenya, and in the Afar province of Ethiopia. A Neanderthal skull was found near the Nile in Egypt, which dated back to 80,000 years old. Because a person's DNA keeps getting mixed by the genes of the generational fathers, comparisons of the DNA in the nucleus of the cell, which comes half from mother and half from father, do not work well after several generations. It was discovered that in addition to the DNA in the cell's nucleus, some DNA exists in the mother's cell, but outside the nucleus in bodies called mitochondria. This DNA does not get mixed with the father's DNA. Instead, it is passed on unaltered from mother to daughter to granddaughter, and so on through the generations. Thus, it is perfect to trace ancestral relations. This discovery by Douglas Wallace of Emory University in the 1980s led him to compare this mitochondria of about 800 women. The surprising conclusion, which he announced at a scientific conference in July 1986 AD, was that the mitochondria in all of them appeared to be so similar that these women must have all descended from a single female ancestor. The research was picked up by Wesley Brown of the University of Michigan, who suggested that by determining the rate of natural mutation of mitochondria, the length of time that had passed since this common ancestor was alive could be calculated. Comparing the mitochondria of 21 women from diverse geographical and racial backgrounds, he came to the conclusion that they owed their origin to a single mitochondria Eve, who had lived in Africa between 300,000 and 180,000 years ago. This led to the search for Eve. Rebecca Cann of the University of California at Berkeley had obtained the placentas of 147 women of different races and geographical backgrounds who gave birth at San Francisco hospitals. She extracted and compared their mitochondria. The conclusion was that they all had a common female ancestor who had lived between 300,000 and 150,000 years. The upper limit of 300,000 years, paleoanthropologists noted, coincided with the fossil evidence for the time Homo sapiens made his appearance. The mitochondria DNA is only given from the mother to daughter. The male species does not have any mitochondria DNA. This is just further proof that the first person to walk on the planet was a female.